Hi, everyone. I'm here with State Senator Mark Peake, and you represent the Lynchburg area of Virginia. And tomorrow there is a big decision for the voters of Tomorrow there is a big decision for the voters of Virginia to make. And I think it's really important to talk to you about that because this isn't just about what's happening in Virginia. This will change the makeup of the House of Representatives, and this is a playbook that is being used across this country in order to absolutely make sure that one party, the Republicans, go the way of the dinosaur. So could you talk to us more about what's happening in Virginia, a little bit of the backstory, and why it's so important for Virginian voters to get out tomorrow?
Thank you, Scarlett. Yes, I mean, it is an absolute disgrace what the Democrats are trying to do to Virginia. So I live here in Lynchburg, Senate District 8, really the heart of Virginia, central Virginia, and we are rural Virginia. So from Charlottesville west is all rural Virginia. And their effort in this redistricting scheme is to take the votes of almost all of our rural Virginians. Currently, our makeup of Congress folks is 6 Democrats to 5 Republicans. They're going to steal the seats of 4 Republican Congress folks and give them and run them through Fairfax. So we're going to have 5 of our 11 congressional districts are going to run through Fairfax. One goes from Virginia Beach. You said you and your husband were in Norfolk. It's going to go from top of Virginia Beach, the Eastern Shore, all the way to Alexandria. Another one is going to go from Augusta County, very rural, West Virginia border, all the way into Fairfax. It's completely terrible maneuver. And we had a constitutional amendment passed just 5 years ago, passed by 2/3 majority to have bipartisan redistricting. Over 63% of Virginia citizens said that's how they want it to be. And they have had to turn themselves into pretzels to circumvent our Constitution to speed this thing through, to bring up this amendment tomorrow. And I think you can see it in Spanberger's ratings. They have plummeted. She's the least popular governor in modern Virginia history. And a lot of it's because she said she was against gerrymandering. She said she was bipartisan and fair, and she's leading the fight against this. And people are really mad.
So she ran as a moderate, campaigned as a moderate, and pretty much on day one, she took a hard left turn. And that's from the outside looking in, that's how I saw it.
The first bill she signed on the first or second day of session this year was this unconstitutional gerrymander amendment and referendum. The second thing she signed was to put us back into the regional greenhouse gas initiative, which is going to cause everybody's electric bill to go sky high. And she ran on affordability and being a moderate. So the first 2 things she did was anything but, and people have noticed.
Well, it seems like if you can't beat it, cheat it. That they're going to sue till the state is blue. But we're going through similar things in Wisconsin. Redraw the districts, and then if you don't win, redraw them again. And they use a term called fair maps and fair elections when they want to gerrymander in such a way that it's obvious. Yeah. But if a Republican governor is going to go by redistricting in a way that is constitutional according to the state, like in Wisconsin, every 10 years according to the census, well, that's not fair, that's gerrymandered. But when they do it, it's all about fairness and equality.
And our Constitution, state Constitution, is very clear. When you have a constitutional amendment on the ballot, the wording is supposed to be neutral and fair and balanced. And the wording for this constitutional amendment says if you want to restore fair maps, just a complete deceitful lie, very deceptive, because we had the fairest maps in the country. Actually had been rated by, of all 50 states, we had the fairest congressional districts, were drawn by a bipartisan group, and it worked. We're a very closely divided state. We had 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, but that's not good enough for this. The shape of these new congressional districts is disgusting, and the length that they run to carry them all through Northern Virginia. What they're doing is they're silencing half of Virginia, and it's just a total disgrace.
When you look at the most recent election, a Democrat, Abigail Spanberger, won. The Democrats swept the lower house and the upper house. And so how is it that they can say that the maps aren't fair? They won.
And we had the bipartisan redistricting 2020 passed, 2021. Everybody ran in 2023. The state Senate was up, and the election result was 21 Democrats and 19 Republicans. The House was 51 Democrats and 49 Republicans, and 6-5 Democrat to Republican in Congress. As fair as you can get.
Yeah,
now
it's right down the middle.
They just won by 15 points in the governor's race, and they're not confident enough to run under our bipartisan drawn maps. It's just sad.
Do you think that they're worried that they ran as moderates, they're governing as, basically the mayor of New York in Virginia, which I lived in Virginia for 6 years. That does not work. Do you think that they are kind of heading off at the pass, knowing that they're going to have great losses in 2 years when there's elections, and finally there's a record to compare for Virginians, so they just need to rig it so they never lose?
Well, they're definitely trying to rig it, and I think they're very scared because, as we discussed, Spanberger won by 15 points in November, and here we are in April. 4 months later, she got sworn in January. So 4 months later, she is negative 46% approval, 47% disapproval in 4 months. And that's because they carried terrible bills. This redistricting amendment's terrible. They're trying to unionize the entire state, which is going to bankrupt our localities. Their Family Medical Leave Act, they're going to bankrupt our small businesses. And of course, rejoining Reggie, they're causing our energy prices to go up. So they ran on affordability. Everything they have done is completely against affordability. We actually brought bills, Republicans, to do away with the grocery tax and to do away with the car tax. They didn't even let those out of committee.
Well, what is their record on parental rights and education?
Terrible. And that's how Governor Youngkin won in 2021. We saw what they were doing, and they're reversing all of those things. They're again promoting pro-transgender policies for schools and bathrooms, and taking away parental rights, putting more power in favor of the bureaucrats in our public schools.
Yes, she supports boys and girls bathrooms, boys on girls athletic teams, boys and girls shower rooms, and when it comes to parental rights, they are perfectly happy with keeping secrets from parents. That means in your kids' K through 12 school, their medical records, they could be hidden from you parents. And once this gets out, once more people realize that this is their agenda, I bet there's a lot of Virginians that, they're going to think, you know what, I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to vote for them even in the upcoming election. And they're just trying to kind of stop that before it starts.
Yeah, we had bills to help get parents more involved. They kill those. We try and give parental choice to picking schools. They kill those. They want parents not to have any involvement in their child's education, or certainly not to say so in what the school district is going to do. And another problem is the constitutional amendment coming up in November to put abortion in our Constitution. And it has no parental notification requirements, and there's no minimum age, and there's no age at which a parent has to be notified. So we had an issue in some Fairfax or Northern Virginia high schools where it appeared that counselors were taking underage students to abortion clinics, and the parents weren't notified. So those are horrible things that are going to be coming up in November, and they will not listen. And listen, the governor's popularity is below 50% after 4 months. They noticed, they are paying attention, and they didn't think this bill, this gerrymander amendment was going to be that close. They're fighting for their lives to try and get this through.
How much have they spent on pushing this referendum?
Upwards of 60 to 70 million is the latest that I saw. And a huge chunk of it from Hakeem Jeffries. He's trying to buy 4 congressional seats to make himself Speaker of the House. George Soros has kicked in a ton. Other groups have kicked in a ton. And I'll tell you, at the very beginning, we were not getting much help from the NRCC or national groups, but they have really been kicking in the money. Now we have television commercials, we have YouTube commercials. Now we're able to compete with our own ads, and that's why the race is getting closer and closer.
I can't believe, I want to rewind a little bit to what you said. Regardless of how you feel about abortion, I think that the vast majority of parents would disagree with a employee at a school district driving their child to an abortion clinic. That's just way too far. That's outrageous. They do not have the authority to make those kinds of decisions for someone else's child. Raise your own child. What the heck are you doing getting involved in the lives of a family in this way?
And a lot of schools, through policies over the past decade, if your kid showed up to school with an aspirin or a Tylenol, they would kick them out of school for having an illegal drug. They were legal. They were prescription drugs. They couldn't even take, not even over-the-counter drugs. They couldn't have an over-the-counter pain pill, Advil, Tylenol, whatever. They'd kick them out of school. And here they're letting counselors take kids for abortion procedures without notifying the parents. In Virginia, you can't get a tattoo. You can't get your ear pierced under the age of 18 without parental consent. And yet they want to enshrine it in our Constitution that a child can get an abortion without parental notification.
In Virginia, a teacher cannot even apply sunscreen to a child without parental consent. Yet they can drive them to parenthood.
That was a bill. My first year or second year in the Senate, I've been in since 2017, that bill came up. I don't think it passed, but it is one that came up. I take it back. Maybe it did, but that was how ludicrous I spoke out. We're getting involved to this extent to whether or not you can use sunscreen, but then you can go have an abortion and nobody tells your parents.
Well, and they can go and make sure they get puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones. They can get counseling and therapy. This is dangerous. These drugs have side effects that if the parents don't understand what's happening, they won't know what to do if there's a crisis. And a mental health crisis is a very real crisis for a teenager, and parents are the ones that need to be there the whole time guiding their child through. They shouldn't be the last to know. They should be the first to know.
And I've brought a bill to outlaw any removable body parts and these blockers that make permanent changes, and they don't make it out of subcommittee, much less regular committee. They fight all those. And the other was parental notification. We've had that fight for the entire time I've been in, 8 years now. At school, your child goes and wants to pretend that they're the different gender than they really are. They're trying to prohibit schools from telling parents. And yet those same people have counselors come in and say, transgender youth, people struggling with sexual identity or preference are the most likely to commit suicide. So here you have it, a child who's going through that, who has a much higher rate or percentage of committing suicide. You don't want to tell the parents so they can be on the lookout for it and seek help and guidance, or at least know what their child is going through. They want to keep teachers from telling parents about such vital things to their kids' health as that. That's what we're fighting in Virginia. And we just lost, but this is the first chance to fight back and to show them that we're not going to stand for it.
No, and so in closing, I also want to talk about the wording of this referendum. Is there any advice that you give to folks that are going out to vote? Because I'm hearing that it's very confusing.
Vote no. That's all that anyone needs to know. Don't read it.
Okay.
Just vote
Don't
no,
read it.
because it is a lie. It is deceptive, and that's what it's intended to do. A no vote is a great vote. That's all any Virginian needs to know is vote no. Look at who's running the ads for vote yes, Obama and Spanberger. So if you want to be with Obama and Spanberger, vote yes. If you don't, vote no. A no vote's a great vote.
Yes, just vote no. Don't. And so go vote tomorrow. This is your last chance, right?
Last chance.
Go to the polls.
Last chance.
Last chance.
I'm sorry. It's at every precinct. Your normal voting precincts are open. You go to your regular precinct, unless it happens to be at a school, then they'll tell you if it was moved. But your normal precinct, go vote tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Vote no.
Vote no. Vote no. And when you go vote, bring someone with you. Make some calls. Make sure your family goes to vote. If your kid's over 18, make sure they go to vote. Drive your mom to vote. Get to the polls. How close?
Take anybody.
How close?
I think 17-year-olds can vote. So take your 17-year-old. Take your mom, take your neighbor, any parent, any child, 17 and older. Get them to the polls.
Have you seen recent polling on this? Is it very close?
It's very close. As you know, we lost by 15 points just 4 or 5 months ago. The polls are showing this neck and neck within 3 to 5. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. The worst one has been 5 down. So, and that's from the Washington Post. So don't be dissuaded by that. We feel like we're neck and neck, and just go vote.
Just go vote, get out, vote no. Vote no to woke, vote no to this insanity, and make sure that you bring people with you to vote tomorrow, Virginia. This is your last chance. And if you know, if you're listening and you know someone who lives in Virginia, text them and say, hey, you need to go vote. It's real easy. You know, just one little bubble you have to fill, and then you're done.
That's the only thing on the ballot. No, it can't be any easier than this. Scarlett, thank you for having me on. Thank you for publicizing this. Thank you for getting the word out to my fellow Virginians. We have got to beat this amendment. We can't send 10 Democrats out of Fairfax to represent us in Washington. They're trying to silence rural conservative Virginia. We can't let it happen.
Yes. Thank you for coming on, and best of luck. I will be watching from here in DC tomorrow. So, and I'll make sure that I keep posting. Get out to vote, Virginia.
Please do, and we'll see how we go and talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Now I am with my friend Marianne, who is a mom living in Virginia. You are in Prince William County, correct?
Correct, yes. Northern Virginia,
And
Prince William County.
Northern Virginia. So we were just talking with State Senator Mark Peake, and he was telling us about what's going on in Virginia. So there's a very big election tomorrow. We heard from his perspective. I want to hear from your perspective as a mom living in Virginia and kind of living through this whole transition, this turmoil.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I've never seen such a power grab. I worked at the polls several times since in Virginia, we have 45 days of early voting. And I've been at the polls a few times. And of all my years working in the polls, I have never seen such an ugly election. People are heated, mean. It's really been one side that's been pretty mean about it. But yeah, it's really scary where we're at as a country and as a state.
So what's on the ballot is a redistricting referendum, correct?
Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that would mean it could result in losing 4 Republican seats. There are only 5 Republicans that are holding a congressional seat right now in Virginia, and there are 6 Democrats, correct?
Yeah,
In the House of
6 to 5. Yes.
Yeah.
In 2021, this map was voted on, bipartisan commission. It's the most fair maps in the country, and it cut out. Are you there?
Start over from 2021.
Okay. Now? Okay. In 2021, the maps were voted on unanimously by a bipartisan. Okay, sorry, the camera keeps going out, so I'm not sure if it's recording or not. You're on mute. You're on mute, Scarlett.
Go back out and come in like I did. That's what seemed to work for me.
Okay, all right, I'll go out.
Okay. I think that's usually the trick that works. Okay. So start from 2021.
Okay. In 2021, Virginia was voted on. Our maps were voted on by a bipartisan commission unanimously. Right now, we have the fairest maps in the country: 6 Democrat, 5 Republican. And when Abigail Spanberger was running, she campaigned that she would not touch the redistricting. And literally the day after she got into office, she changed her mind. So it's been a big lie from the very beginning. They are now proposing a 10-1, 10 Democrat, 1 Republican in a purple state. This is a state where Kamala Harris won by 52%. So it is very split down the middle. And this is just a power grab because they don't like President Trump. That's all this is. And that's what people would say to me while I was helping at the polls was, well, Trump did this and well, Trump. And this has nothing to do with Trump. This is Virginia Constitution. It's in the Constitution that we don't change until 2030. And this is a power grab. You're on mute, Scarlett. I can't hear you.
Okay. I always forget when I mute, then because it's better sound when I forget. But it's the date's 2030 because that's when the next census report comes out every 10 years, and that makes sense. You redistrict after you get a census report and you see what the population makeup of the state is. They are just if they can't win, they just keep redrawing and gerrymandering districts until they have a majority. What I was talking about with Senator Mark Peake was that in the last election, a Democrat governor won. The Democrats swept the local, the state, what we call it assembly. What's your lower branch? What do you call it in Virginia?
Yeah, the General Assembly. Mm-hmm.
The General Assembly. So they swept the lower house, the General Assembly. They
Mhm.
swept the Senate, the state Senate. They won everything. They
Mhm.
And that's not enough. I mean, doesn't that prove that you do have fair maps? That power kind of goes back and forth. One, 4 years ago it was Glenn Youngkin. Now it's Abigail Spanberger. It's like they don't want even the possibility that they could lose. And that possibility seems very likely considering that immediately upon winning, they started running away with this very woke, unpopular agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And they know that they cannot, that they know that this is unfair, and they literally have to cheat for this. And the wording on the ballot shows that, where they say this is a fair election. If you want to vote for a fair election, vote yes. Well, people who aren't invested in this or don't really know what's going on, or a young 18-year-old that's going to go vote for the first time is going to read that, and they're going to vote yes, because who doesn't want a fair election? But we already have a fair election here in Virginia.
Yes,
So.
you have a bipartisan commission that, when a census report comes in, a new census report every 10 years, looks at that data and then tries with a team, bipartisan, to come up with that's actually fair maps. When you have experts looking at it, they're just sued. It's like sue to your blue, keep trying one way or another to get a result. And that's subverting the will of all Virginians. I'm guessing, because this is what's happened in my state, that they are going to take rural Virginia and find a way to connect it to all the most woke large cities, so that somehow, some way, they are able to basically erase the voice of Virginians that don't live in Fairfax County.
That's exactly what they're doing. If you look at the maps, you see, I think it's like 8 of the 10 are going to be governed by Fairfax. It's literally split, these long stripes. Everything is centered in Fairfax. And even if you're a Democrat, you should not want what is happening in Fairfax. And that's what's going to happen. Fairfax is a dumpster fire, and the rest of the state is following right behind.
Fairfax is well known for their woke policies in schools. And I think that what they're doing in education is probably the most unpopular thing that Democrats are doing in every state, but in particular in Virginia. How are they treating parental rights in Virginia? What is the agenda of the newly elected governor?
Well, not a lot. Well, not a lot has changed since she's gotten in. I think they've been focusing on this referendum, but I know I've seen bills that they've already tried to push that, if parents don't have the final say, or parents don't need to know about this, or parents don't need to know about that. And some of them have been killed in the assembly, but they're still working on them. And a lot of them are up to different school boards, and school boards can decide if they want to follow the governor or not. My particular school board, they love liberal policies, and they basically said, see ya to everything Governor Youngkin wanted with parental rights. But oh man, they're going to cherry pick, and they're going to go right with what she wants. So parental rights are definitely on. They should be on our radar here, because they will be changed for sure.
Yes. Especially if they can consolidate more power, when some of those bills were killed, it might have signaled, hey, we don't have enough Democrats but that must have signaled that they don't have enough votes to get their agenda across, and they need more. So they need to redraw and demoralize until they have control. We have a mutual friend, Shannon, and that was sort of the playbook in Illinois. A lot of the more radical legislation and policies in education were able to be stymied by sensible Democrats, and there were enough Republicans that they could make a difference. well,
We don't
then
have
they just,
sensible Democrats here, Scarlett. We do not have sensible Democrats. They literally do what they're told. Now, Governor Spanberger, to her credit, I guess, I don't know if I want to say that or not, but she ran a very moderate campaign, and she says she's moderate. So she has killed some extreme bills, but that's not because she doesn't want them. That's because I have a hunch. Maybe this is a conspiracy theory, but I have a hunch that they're going to run her for president, and so she has to play the moderate card. But this whole referendum, there is nothing moderate about it. So she's just shown her
yeah.
true colors in 2 months of being in office, really.
And what's your feeling about what's going to happen tomorrow? Have you seen an increased amount of people getting out to vote? Like you said, it's 45 days of voting.
Yeah, we have 45 days of early voting. And honestly, almost every day there have been really, really high numbers. It's hard to say what I think is going to happen. I'm kind of a pessimist at heart, and so I don't ever feel like we'll win with anything, but I'm trying to be more hopeful. I know we can do this. I have seen, even just today, I was driving in a very liberal part of our county, and there was a huge sign, so vote no. I've seen way more vote no signs. Even in Fairfax, when I was up there last week, I saw more vote no. I think more people are more passionate about the no vote than the yes vote. They still may show up to vote yes. I've seen lots of people do that, but I have heard of several Democrats that came to vote that said, this isn't fair. Doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. This is not fair. So I'm really hoping and praying that more people will wake up, show up to vote. If people come, we can win this. I know we can. Republicans have gotten lazy, and Republicans in Virginia. And I think a lot of it too is this past November was so rough. I mean, we got slaughtered in every level. And I've had several people tell me, well, why should I vote? It doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count. People don't listen to me. My legislators don't listen to me. So I understand the exhaustion, but this is so important. It's going to affect other businesses. I mean, even people close to me, legislators who are supporters of their business, they're out. They're out. So I know corporations are very nervous about this as well.
How much money has been spent by the left on getting this referendum across?
The last I heard today was up close to 70 million, near $70 million. That is a lot. We cannot compete with that. We just can't. So we're depending on the grassroots. I mean, that's where grassroots is so important. I have written hundreds of postcards, and I've, done phone calls and all of that, but that's all we have. We don't have, I think Republicans have spent $1 million, maybe a couple million. That's it. That's it. We don't have the support. And now all of a sudden everybody on X is get out and vote and support Virginia. Well, where were they in October and November? That's when we needed them. That's when we needed their voice. They forgot about us, really.
Happens all the time. It happens all the time. This sudden last minute, like get out, vote, when they haven't talked about it at all. I'm actually really surprised at how few people were talking about this, like the influencers, or this hasn't been on the radar of a lot of conservative talk radio, when it really should be, because it's going to affect the whole country, and it's a playbook that will be used again and again and again. It's going to be used in Wisconsin. I know that for sure. We've already had two they've redrawn the map twice already. They want to do it again. I mean, it never stops until I honestly till it's a one-party state.
I know. Well, and the frustrating thing is, yes, it did happen in Texas, but it was time. There were nearly 2 million people that have moved in the last few years. They had to redraw the maps. And so Texas is not Virginia. And that's what I keep trying to tell people. We're two different states. It's in Virginia's constitution. It should not be changed. But if this is allowed here, you're right. There's there's no stopping other states from doing it. They're going to just completely go for the power grab, and it's scary.
If anything has changed in Virginia since the election of President Trump and the mass reduction in the federal workforce, I would think there are less Democrats in some of the major areas of Virginia. Maybe they've moved and they have a job somewhere else because of the change in leadership, and thousands of jobs gone because there's been this decentralization of the federal government. So if there were to be any changes, I would imagine that some of the areas that are closer to DC have seen a drop in population, and those are going to be mostly Democrats.
Well, that was my hope. That was truly my hope when President Trump, they laid off all these people, but I don't think it was enough to make that much of an impact. I mean, like Richmond, there are some very, very blue areas that were not affected by the layoffs. So I don't think it's enough to really matter, to be honest. And there were a lot of good Republicans that were laid off as well. So
it's essentially not fair. So, and I don't think that I would say for those who are Democrats that don't pay close attention and they're not like radical left, I would hope that they see through this and they would not desire this one party state, because all they have to do is look at some of the most radical on the left, like the mayor of New York, and say, is that where we want to go? Is that what we want to be? Do we want to have taxes like that are being threatened in New York City? It's insane what happens when this radical faction of the Democratic Party takes control. This is the woke. This is what we deal with. I don't want to talk about politics too much, but we deal with this. It's really not even political. It's really almost a religious fervor that they have for.
Right. Well, and a lot of it, like I said at the beginning, is their hatred of Trump. Truly. I mean, they hate Trump more than they love the state of Virginia and more than they love America. And this is just to stick it to Trump. Every time I try asking people at the polls, what is your reasoning? Well, Trump, or, Texas, Trump. They could not give me a good reason for it. And when you have that much anger and hatred to somebody, you can't think rationally. They're not looking at what's happening in New York. They're not looking at what's happening across the country. They're just so angry that they feel like voting yes is just going to stick it to them.
Yeah. Well, that's good insight to have. We may not like to hear it, but if this is what you're hearing, then this is what's happening. So these are things that maybe we don't want to hear, and we know it's unfair. If you look at the media coverage and you're not watching Fox News or you're not watching a podcast, it's kind of insane the amount of time that is spent on Trump, and just everything's painted in just this horrible way that if you're just consuming Apple News, this is what you think. You think that he's the devil incarnate, and that's it's just so wrong. The media manipulation. It's at least we have. I'm here in the White House press room. We have people like me. Today I spent the day with all sorts of new media outlets and more established conservative outlets like the Daily Wire, Real America's Voice, so many. There are many. But we don't have that control of the pop culture, like the mainstream pop culture, the things that our kids, as soon as if they have their phone, our teenagers, and they see Apple News, we still don't affect that very much. That's what we really have to change.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I don't know how we do that. I don't.
That's a whole nother thing. That's something we can't control. Or, we can I think we do a good job. We can raise our kids differently, but they're eventually going to interact with all the other kids. So
Yep. Just have to teach them, while they're young, and teach them correct morals and standards and principles, and hopefully they'll they'll see through all the crap. My kids have really been strong patriots in their schools, and it's been really rewarding to see. So
Good. You've done a good job. Well, I'll let you get back to your kiddos. I know you have to put them to bed, but any last words to fellow Virginians about voting tomorrow?
no, just like you said to Senator Peake, get a friend, call friends, text your friends. We all know, we all have friends, and whether put it on social media, you might get some crazy comments. I know I was in it with a friend the other day, and but that's okay. It's time to be strong and stand up for what we know is right, not and what we know is fair. So get your friends, like you said, get your mom, get your dad, get everybody out to vote. Every single vote counts, and we need it. We can beat this if we get out and vote.
Yep, we can. All right, get out and vote no. That's all you have to
Vote
know.
no.
Vote.
Big no.
That's it. No. Say no.
Right.
Just say no.
No.
Just say no.
Easy,
All right.
easy ballot.
Easy. Tell everyone, just vote no. All right.
That's
Thanks
okay.
for coming
Okay,
on,
Scarlett.
Marianne.
Take care.
Vote
Thanks.
no if you live in Virginia.
Vote no.
Go vote.
Yeah.
All right.
Go vote.
Bye.
Okay.